Right, good evening ladies and gentlemen and welcome to the Planning Committee. First of all, before we get to the agenda part, there's a bit of housekeeping. If the alarm bell rings, please go out either the way you come in or for the more able out the fire escape, because there will be a genuine reason while it's ringing. Please switch your mobile devices to silent. If your phone rings, we charge you a amount towards the chairman's charity. So we give you a good chance. If you don't want to pay £5, switch your phone off. The proceedings are being recorded. Speakers will have 3 minutes, with one exception, I'll explain in a minute. After that you'll hear a tone and be asked to wind up. If you don't, you'll be politely told to wind up. This is the only opportunity that you'll have to speak when your name is called out. So please don't interrupt during the rest of the debate. We'd ask you not to clap, cheer, boo or hiss, which I'm sure you won't. And during the debate you will see officers talking, which, while you're talking, or while speakers are talking, looks like bad manners, but it's the only way we can get an answer to what you're actually saying for when you finish speaking. Right, members, an update on performance. It's still good. We're still achieving, I think it's 85%, 84% of all applications on time. 3% major appeals. There's 7 that are pending, and we can afford to lose 16, including that 7 between now and September. But as you're aware, this year could be coupled to next year, and that may put us in a difficult position. So that's the update on performance targets. Right, next, back to the agenda, which is to sign the minutes of the meeting. Is it your wish I do so as a true and correct record? Agreed. Thank you. Lost my pen. Thank you. Apologies for absence.
Councillor Alan Chandler and Councillor Diana Osborne.
Right. Is it a full house? Otherwise it is, isn't it? Okay. Members' interests. Disclosable interests. Councillor Evans.
I have to disclose that 2 of the speakers are great friends of mine, and in the room, everybody I know, because they live in the villages adjacent to Aldingworth or in Aldingworth. But they have not put undue pressure, and we have, I have spoken to the parish on planning ground alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Any more interest? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Application DA 20140988. I was involved on this on the Town Council.
Okay, thank you. Any more? Parting whipping arrangements?
No.
To members of the public, that means we don't get together beforehand and decide how we're going to vote. Nobody does in this chamber, and nobody, as far as I am aware, ever has done. There are some applications deferred or delegated. Application 0918 in Malden is a delegated approval, and a delegated refusal is 0975 and 0976 listed building, one in Wilton. That's a delegated refusal. And the very last one on your agenda, which is DA, well, it doesn't matter DA, it's 1085, an application in Brimpton, has been deferred. Basically, the application has still some days to go before it runs out of time. So it is possible that somebody could make comments which would alter the application. So that's why it's been taken off. Right, we go to the first application now, which is Arlington. Over to you, Bruce.
Good evening. The application site lies in quite remote open countryside, approximately 2 miles to the northeast of Ardingworth village, between about 1 to 2 miles south of Braybrook village, about 4 miles southeast of Market Harbour, and about 2 to 3 miles west, give or take, of Desborough town centre. The site lies on the south side of Braybrook Road, with land to the north falling in Kettering Borough. At the present time, the site is used as a family traveller site. We planning permission and reference DA 2009-059, a broadly triangular area of land that accommodates 2 units, mobile homes, with permission for 3 day vans. This application seeks permission to extend the area eastward to roughly double its original size, to form a staggered triangle-shaped hard-standing to accommodate 7 additional units and 7 day vans. Also proposed is an extension to an unoccupied amenities room, or a day room, and a new amenities room in the southeastern corner of the site, and an elongation of a stable near the highway westwards to effectively turn 2 individual buildings into one composite structure. While the extended part of the site will not technically accommodate family pitches, the applicants have indicated that the site will effectively remain a communal one and is designed for mostly friends and acquaintances when they are unable to secure accommodation. Consequently, the applicant will continue to manage and be in charge of the quite contained site. When the application first came into the local authority, it comprised a secondary access track into adjoining developed land to the east of the site. But owing to both highway safety concerns over visibility and environmental impact, this has been removed from the proposal, so the site only benefits from one access, the existing access. The quite comprehensive agenda item assesses all the key issues and policies, while addressing the detailed letters of mostly objection from many local residents and the various parish councils and other parties. I would like now to summarise some of the salient points in that report. While none of the relevant policies of the development plan or national planning policy framework should be considered in isolation, the key and most up-to-date policy of the adopted West Northamptonshire Joint Core Strategy is Policy H6. This identifies various locational and strategic criteria for gypsy and traveller sites. The preamble of the policy indicates the tabular data set out in the Traveller Accommodation Needs Study, abbreviated as TANS, the most critical of which, the Daventry district at the present time, is that a further 8 pitches are required between the years 2012 and 2017. And the report states that these further 7 pitches will contribute to making additional traveller provision as identified in the policy in this district at the present time. The other criteria reflected in this and local policies are primarily environmental and site management criteria. The report demonstrates in detail that, on balance, this enlargement will not detract from the countryside and special landscape area, obtained nature, and that the site and area and locality can satisfactorily absorb the proposed increase. However, various conditions on any permission are considered necessary, including 1, securing landscaping to ameliorate visual impacts and ensuring satisfactory drainage arrangements. I consider it appropriate to briefly address some of the objections from approximately 70 to 80 individuals, parish councils, MPs or local representatives, including Kettering Borough Council, who object, given the site opposite called Greenfields. But this is the subject of enforcement notices and a temporary permission addressed by the inspector, who considered this particular site detrimental to rural character. Many local residents are concerned about the social and visual impact of enlarged application sites. However, the council has a statutory duty under the requisite policies to facilitate further gypsy and traveller provision in reasonable circumstances. This isolated site is considered suitable to meet that provision because it is not sporadically located, and it's not a wholly vacant site. It's established, and therefore it's appropriate for it to be extended for the purposes identified. And on this basis, the report recommends approval.
Thank you, Bruce. We have 4 speakers. As I indicated earlier on, you have 3 minutes. The only one exception, because we only allowed 1 parish council to speak and we've allowed 2 here, to balance it out, Mr. Wayne, the agent, can have 5 minutes rather than 3 minutes, should he need it. That balances out the speaking time. There can't be any argument. But knowing Mr. Wayne, he won't need 5 minutes. Okay. The first speaker is Mrs. Stanley, who's against the application. You have 3 minutes, madam.
I represent NN Raid. If this application were to be passed, the number of pitches within 2 kilometres, including this site, would rise to 39. The cumulative impact of these developments is crushing. There are already 89 pitches, including those being built, within roughly 3 miles. This is a large speculative development on agricultural land with no proven need, using Daventry's requirement for provision for the applicant's financial gain. Furthermore, when no previous conditions have been complied with at this site, why would this officer think that his recommended conditions will fare any better? The Joint Core Strategy and NPPF requirements that appear to have been ignored in this erroneous report include: larger sites should be avoided, sites should be reasonably accessible to services and facilities, and there should be effective community consultation that addresses the fear of crime. We've had 11 sheep killed by dogs in the past couple of months in this immediate vicinity, and so many incidents of hair coursing that the local estate has dug ditches either side of the field roads to stop further incursions. It is also a requirement that the scale and location of the site should not have an unacceptable impact on the landscape, local infrastructure and existing communities. This is a beautiful area with national footpaths and cycleways running through but its amenity value is being steadily eroded by these developments. In our extensive experience, Gypsy's businesses require the use of commercial vehicles, flatbed trucks and transit-type vans. The roads around the site are single-track country lanes and were not designed for the volume of traffic that these multiple sites generate after permission is granted. Other road users, horse riders and walkers, are all reporting problems. The inspector's decision on the last several appeals at Greenfields across the road said the isolated countryside location of Greenfields would not be economically, socially or environmentally sustainable in my view, and outstanding unmet needs do not outweigh the harm. Views mirrored in the earlier appeal decisions. These government inspectors have already judged this rural location and ruled that it is not sustainable. Greenfield site is sadly still with us, and despite your officers' attempts to persuade us, we cannot presume that it will be removed, especially if this application is allowed to proceed. How can the officer state that this authority has submitted several objection responses to Greenfields and in the next breath advocate the acceptance of this application? He says it's a matter of judgment. His judgment directly opposes the view of the community and all the bodies that represent them. This is either supreme arrogance or a desire for expediency over probity, disregarding the principle of democracy. This council needs to address their lack of provision, work with the neighbouring councils and ensure that the situation at Justin Park is never replicated, striving for well-managed sites in appropriate areas distributed fairly across this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stone. All right, Mr. Blake, Speaker from Ardingworth Parish Council.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am here today on behalf of Ardingworth Parish Council to ask you to refuse this application to extend Golden Stables. Firstly, I must emphasise that I have been contacted by a number of residents who, due to the distance between Daventry and Ardingworth, are not able to be here tonight to express how strongly they object to this application. We are extremely disappointed that the case officer's report has recommended this application for approval. As a community, we feel alienated and isolated by that opinion, particularly as that recommendation is justified so that Daventry can meet its requirements to provide additional traveller pitches in the district, rather than by virtue of what the application is proposing and its impact on the surrounding areas. This border area of Kettering and Daventry has a long planning history relating to traveller sites, and it is disappointing to see how much this case officer's report contradicts the observations made by Kettering Borough Council. The recommendation to approve undermines years of planning battles and significant sums of money spent by Kettering trying to prevent the neighbouring Greenfield site, directly opposite, with numerous stop notices, eviction orders, refused applications and planning appeals. The conclusions from this report that there is no legitimate position to oppose Golden Stables expansion, either to protect the special landscape area or due to the lack of accessible services, is directly contrary to the views of numerous Kettering planning reports and several planning inspectorate reports on the Greenfield site. To paraphrase from two separate planning inspectors, development in this location would result in considerable harm to the character and appearance of the countryside. It is a wholly unsustainable location, economically, environmentally and socially. Their words, not mine. Considering this and more is on public record, and no pitch at Greenfields has a permanent permission as a consequence, we struggle to understand how this applicant's site can be considered particularly suitable. It certainly does not comply with policy H6 of the Joint Core Strategy. The statement that the development will not distract if further ameliorated by landscaping is hardly a reliable solution when this report acknowledges that the mature landscaping for the existing development has been removed. We are concerned that the recommendation to approve is centred on rectifying the lack of gypsy and traveller planning policy for this district, rather than clearly assessing this application. This planning process is not an acceptable substitute for the formal assessment and consultation process for creating that policy, and attempting to do so through this application would be a disservice to both the traveller and settled communities. Ardingworth Parish Council knows this is a sensitive application at a time when this committee and this planning department is under significant scrutiny. However, the cumulative impact of traveller pitches in this area is significant. We ask that you reject this application.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Howe speaking on behalf of Braybrook Parish Council.
Good evening, thank you. My name is David Howes, I'm a Kettering Borough Councillor and also a Planning Committee member at Kettering Borough. I have lived in the ward and the parish of Braybrook most of my life, which is the adjoining parish. I now work in the parish and have done for over 15 years. You might be thinking that I'm just another opposer of gypsy and traveller sites and pitches and dislike gypsies and travellers. That is not the case. People should be treated fairly and equally, and it includes gypsies and travellers. A recent application in my ward, which was last week, I vigorously supported, which was a 5-pitch gypsy and traveller site at Desborough. The application for 5 pitches was given the go-ahead, and it was also in my ward. Representing people's views is the primary reason I was elected, and this is a classic case where I need to stand up and represent those views. Braybrook has mainly made up of elderly people with no school and a population of around 300. At the start of the report, it uses the heading consultation. This is slightly misleading, as this was not really the case, as we found out about this application not by being informed by this authority, but by residents. Do you know what it's like to live in Braybrook, near some of the gypsy and traveller sites? I stress the word some. Residents report intimidation whilst out walking, verbal abuse on a regular basis, travelling down single-track roads at speed. The volume has increased several-fold. Fly tipping, antisocial behaviour, hair coursing, sheep worrying, horses being put into farmers' land unauthorised, witness littering. This is just some of the issues that we face. There are issues in this report. Locality. In this report, it refers to 25 pitches on 4 sites. The KBC reports show that there's 60, currently on about 9 sites. This one would be 10. 60 current pitches, plus these 8 on adjacent land or close to Braybrook. Pitch estimates are 6 to 8 in terms of numbers. 68 pitches on a rough basis of 6 to 8 residents is 408 to 554 residents within the gypsy and traveller community in the vicinity. No community is supposed to be overwhelmed. The report states that there are no other gypsy and traveller sites within the 2-kilometre radius. This is simply wrong. It is normal to measure the distance as the crow flies. Golden Gates is 1.19 miles from the crossroads. Golden Gates is 1.4 miles to Black Paddock. It's 1.42 miles to Spinney Copse. It's 2.6 miles to Justin Park. I think you're getting an idea of how close we're talking. The leading comment I have is KBC has just gone through a painful gypsy and travel consultation, and I know decisions like this are not easy, and sometimes you have to stand up for a community and say no to an application. This is not a suitable location for further gypsy and traveller pitches. Don't add more problems to a community that is already suffering. You need to ask your officers to find alternative locations for gypsy and traveller provision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wayne, the agent.
Councillors, I might take up the extra couple of minutes now. There are certain key considerations in the determination of this application. The first relates to policy, and they recognised the need in the core strategy for additional gypsy and traveller pitches in this district. This application complies with the adopted core strategy. Secondly, this is an extension of an existing site approved by this council in 2009, which has operated as such since then, with no objections being made known to this authority, or indeed my client, since then. Thirdly, this is an extension in line with government advice for small family-based sites, where it is controlled by the owner as well as by the local authority. This is not a large site, you cannot relate this to just in. That government advice also requires local authorities to ensure the scale of such sites does not dominate the nearest settled community. And we've heard from the officers that Ardingworth and Grayville are approximately two miles away, Great Oxford is over 2 miles away, and Harrington even further away. None of these would be dominated by this small increase in numbers on this existing site. The Just-in Traveller site is actually 3.5 miles away if you go by road rather than by crow, and the nearest approved site at Braybrook is 1.6 miles away. So this will not provide undue concentration of sites in this immediate area. Dealing with the comments from Kettering Council, that council last week approved a new site for 5 pitches, and your councillor who spoke was obviously there. And a dwelling for travellers in open countryside, 400 metres from 2 existing sites with over 20 pitches and a further commission for 10 pitches. That, Chairman, is undue concentration. Chairman, your officers have set out an assessment of the criteria in Policy H6 and determined no environmental concerns. Reasonable access to a range of facilities. One of the problems, Chairman, facing travellers is an objection to a more sustainable site in close proximity to a rural settlement. This site is well away from any rural settlement. There are no amenity problems, no environmental health objections. It's preferable to allow extension of an existing site and encourage sporadic sites. There is no reason to believe the site will not be managed in a suitable manner. Highways are offering no objection to a potential impact on the local highway network. Access to the site, or parking and manoeuvring within the site. Now clearly there are objections, that's why so many people are here tonight, as there are with any traveller site application, some of which are anecdotal, and we've heard those tonight. Hare coursing, exactly what the council said. Hare coursing, sheep worrying, dogs all over the place. None of these relate to my client's site. They are general, anecdotal comments, and I've asked you to ignore them. None of them offer any solutions as to what is an identified need in this district, based on a full and careful considered traveller assessment. My client's application is part of the solution, and therefore I believe that is not part of the problem. Chairman, this is a family-based site in line with government policy, and I would respectfully ask that your committee follows the advice of the office and approves the application. But I would just take up a couple of points made by Braybrook. Firstly, each site has to be considered on its own merits. The greenfield site was considerably larger, in fact significantly larger, and is being dealt with correctly by Kettering Council. On sustainability, this site does not rely on the local villages. They use Desborough and Market Harborough. In fact, the local villages use Desborough and Market Harborough because they're also equally unsustainable. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne. Local members. Who's going first?
Thank you. Yes, so a few general sort of underlying concerns. I think the sort of bitter pill to swallow for the local residents here is the imposition of the volume of travellers in a specific place. And I mean, I've come to accept on my experience during my time on the planning committee that sort of the argument that this is in a special landscape area is to be outweighed by the need to meet a specific land supply. But a consultation of the figures shows that the need is not that dire. And I think if this were to be accepted, we only need 7 more sites over the next 2 or 3 years to sort of meet our targets. And I think the lack of addressing in this point in the reports is a cause for concern. You know, there's talks of a problem and the need for a solution, but alternatives in the area that would be more palatable, I think, for everyone. It's not really brought up in any great detail, which I think is quiet frustration. In terms of the concentration, so on page 34, paragraphs 2 and 3, my understanding is that we do have to consider applications as they are in a sort of single isolated entity. But I mean, on the particularly on paragraph 4, we're the sort of the last sentence, in the event that all enforcement notices, with regards to the Kettering site, in the event that all enforcement notices are fully complied with or temporary notices, gypsy and travel developments opposite the site would theoretically no longer exist under planning legislation. Now, this has confused me somewhat. I thought if this is supposed to be a mitigating factor, I don't see how it really applies, because it's sort of a theoretical sort of afterthought to this particular application itself, and it doesn't feel consistent with what we usually have to deal with at planning. Furthermore, I think criterion B in the assessment needs survey overall, I don't think it's adequately addressed. I mean, it is specifically on page 31, paragraph 4. I mean, locality, if it's defined as potentially within walking or cycling distance in certain instances, I just don't think that's realistic at all. And in the next paragraph, when it says, in any event, it is inevitable that both the current and envisaged occupants will need to rely to an extent on private or commercial vehicles to access certain or local services or employment. I mean, I take that point, but I can't help but think that if this was a normal planning application, a proposition for houses to accommodate the same number of people that will potentially fill this site, I think it would really struggle to get through. There are a couple of other general points as well. With respect to the unoccupied amenities building, why has it remained unoccupied up until this point? And does that justify the second one? What particularly are they supposed to be used for? Could they be used for alternate purposes in the future? Also, my understanding of, let me just find it here. On page 32, paragraph 3, with regards to the conditions on sewage and water arrangements, as I understand, once a certain volume of people is reached, certain aspects of those of sewage arrangements does not need to be upgraded or electrified. I mean, that part of the report seemed to not provide me with enough detail, I think, to make an accurate judgment on general sustainability. I mean, I had a lot of other general points that I think have been covered by the representations as well. I don't want to make a specific proposal yet. I want to hear what other people have to say. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chairman. As everybody knows me now, since I've been elected, I have said we need good policy for travel side. As you know, the joint planning, the West Northamptonshire joint planning was adopted in December, and in the core of the joint planning strategy, now we know that starting in September 15 till 17, we are going to do exactly the same job that Kettering has been doing now for 2 years. Kettering Borough Council is ahead of us for the provision of travellers' site. It has been a very painful exercise for Kettering, and I have always been informed and I have always replied, because the housing was added to Braybrook, and it was proper that Kettering involved me. I have been to all the appeal on the Greenfield side, and I have always supported the parishes. And when you speak about Braybrook, you can speak also about Arrington, and you can speak about Great Oxenden. by the way, Great Oxenden was not notified of the planning application. Now, I think it is true we lack of policy, but it will be a great disservice to the council and to the inhabitants of our district to think a lack of policy can be, the reply for a lack of policy can be, let's put that gypsy site in that place, and that we will have our 7 pitches, we will need 1 pitches. That is not a good reason for a planning application. It is a powerful argument. I will also thank publicly the applicant because he has put a planning application, so we are not dealing with a retrospective planning application. Also, the applicant started to have that site, which is 8 hectares. He started to have that site in 2005, and if you look at all the correspondence, 2009 you had very few, you had 2 opposition. You had 2 letters, and 1 letter from Ardingworth saying, you know, we are worried about that site, but if that to be just 3 pitches, 2 caravan and 3 van, it's fine. And in the appeal in 2009, in fact, Mr. Barry Wayne, said that the site is just small and it will not increase. So Mr. Wayne, at the time, and it's an appeal, I have it, I have a copy there, and it's paragraph 3.8 and page 5 and 6, where it said, this family previous occupation of the site in the vicinity has led to conflict, and the whole reason for this tribal family seeking a tribal site on this appeal is to be located away from other tribal sites and not to encourage further growth. So the applicant used to live in Justin Park, so has left the pitch for Justin Park and came here, and had not caused any problem. You know, he has lived in or partially lived because the site has not been fully occupied. So suddenly appear this application with 8 pitches. That is where it caused a lot of problem for a lot of residents, because the residents that are here today have gone through 2 years of social searching and so on. The borough of Kettering wants to be a good borough. They have given 5 pitches, and Mr. Wayne is completely wrong when he said it's accumulation of the site. What the pasture and now the other name, the 2 sites have been agreed by Kettering, 1 of 11 pitches and 1 of 5 pitches, and that was with agreement of the whole settled population. We are not speaking of tension here. So now we have new guidance with the Gypsy and Traveller 2012 policy. So I know we lack policy, but if I may, and would the chairman allow me to put I think a counter-proposal that might be easy to discuss. I think that also, sorry, before I forget, Kettering Borough Council had a site which is in Harrington, and because our officer referred to the site opposite, I think it's fair to a site that is in Milwyn, in Harrington, and it was for 2 mobile homes and 2 travel sites. And the recommendation was to refuse on the ground that the site is in open countryside, not closely linked to any existing settlement, which provides an adequate range of service and facility, and give all the reasons. That site has been refused. It had a long history, and so far it has not gone. It's too late. No appeal, nothing. So the decision of Kettering Borough Council of refusing that site has stood its ground. So now, I think, if I may say so, the officer site as for us, member, to accept the paragraph, the NPPF, paragraph 14. No, sorry, yes, the NPPF. I would say that first we will go to our West Northamptonshire planning policy, H6, and B and E, when we are doing our consultation. B, it says the site is reasonably accessible to a range of services set out in national policy. And E said the scale and location of the site will not have an acceptable impact on the landscape, local infrastructure and existing community. That is page 110 of the West Northamptonshire Joint Core Strategy. Page 111, you have the landscape character assessment identifies the following 35 character area in West Northamptonshire, and here you have in plain writing Cottersbrook and Ardingworth. So Ardingworth is designated as a spatial landscape area. So that is what we will West Northamptonshire. Now the NPPF, paragraph 14. So sorry, I have to have. It says that it's presumption in favour of suitable development. Where the development plan is absent, silence or relevant policy out of date, granting permission unless any adverse impact of doing so significantly and demonstrably outweighs the benefits. So I will say that in this case, it does outweigh the benefit of granting the planning application on the ground of overdevelopment of the site. And that has been, I think, in the other appeal that was on Golden Gate, the planning inspector said that the site was small and so no problem with the site due to subservience to the landscape. Finally, as you know, I have spoken for the Gypsy in a number of occasions. I am part of the CTU unit, and I want to find a solution. I want harmony. I mean, my daughter at the moment is fighting for a Syrian camp, and I can tell you, I want really society to accept difference. Now, I think it would be unfair for the Gypsy community to allow them to settle in a site that is not. If you read the guidance, 2012, the guidance from government for good site, that is not a good site, and also on the planning application it referred to 10 car for 10 caravan, and the guidance said it needs 2 cars. So on all those reasons, I will say if the member would like to go with officer report, we will do a great disservice, one, to the Gypsy population, and to our district by doing policy, to solve policy by a knee-jerk reaction. Thank you so much.
You haven't made a proposal at all there.
So would you like a proposal?
No, I'm not inviting anything.
Well,
I just want to make sure that you don't think you made one.
No, would you like me to make a proposal, or would you prefer the debate and you could come
You
back?
can do whatever you like, Councillor.
So I will make a proposal that can be modified by any member. So my proposal is that to go. And I think I will also I guidance from the officer. Sorry, it's off. My proposal is that paragraph NPPF paragraph 14 says that where the development plan is absent, silence or relevant, any adverse impacts of doing so will significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits when assessed against the policy in the framework taken as a whole. So I would say that the site is, it's overdevelopment of the site, It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable economically, socially. It's cause conflict. It has exacerbates the settled traveller population. And also, I will go again with the local plan if we go to the overdevelopment of the site. On the GN1, it's severely restrained development in open countryside. So GN1, NPPF 14, that paragraph unless, and also our joint plan strategy H6B and E. Thank you.
Right, I think an officer wants to make a comment on that before I look for a second then.
Yes, through you, Chairman. Councillor Smith made some reference to NPPF paragraph 14. However, if we do look at that paragraph, it does say, for decision taking, this means approving development proposals that accord with the development plan without delay. Or where the development plan is absent, silent, or relevant policies are out of date, granting plan permission. And then it goes on specifically to talk about weighing the benefits against the harm, and if this significant or demonstrably outweighs those benefits, then it should be reviewed. However, I must draw members' attention to the joint call strategy, which I've got to say is neither silent, nor are the policies absent, or nor the relevant policies absent, out of date. So, starting point in any consideration of this application is the up-to-date relevant policies in the joint call strategy. So,
at the moment, Councillor Smith, I've got two reasons. I've got overdevelopment of the site and not sustainable, for two reasons, not sustainable.
Yes.
What are your other points, or are there any other points?
Well, it's not, with the NPPF, we should also now work in conjunction with our neighbouring.
Yeah, but you're looking for a reason for refusal.
So I think those two reasons are very good reasons. That if the applicant wants to appeal, he will have to demonstrate that our authority. So it's our good reason.
Okay. Do you have a second?
So it's open countryside. GN1. Overdevelopment of the site.
Yeah, we've got not sustainable.
Not sustainable economically and socially. Thank you.
Okay, those are the three reasons then.
Yes, please.
Right, do you have a seconder? Councillor Patrick. Would you like to speak at the moment, Councillor Patrick?
I'll just make a couple of additions to Councillor Smith's statement there. Paragraph 55, which is on page, well, it's detailed on page 23. Paragraph 55 of the NPPF generally advises that to promote sustainable development in rural areas, housing should be located where it will enhance or maintain the vitality of rural communities. I don't see how that's been demonstrated either by officers or anybody else's even. With regards to paragraph 109, it states planning systems should contribute and enhance the natural and local environment by recognising and enhancing valued landscapes. I don't think having 7 mobile home pitches really demonstrates that it's going to enhance a designated special landscape area or any other of the countryside. With regard to section 7 of the framework, it sets out the government expectations regarding good design. Notably, paragraph 61 states that although the visual appearance and architecture of individual buildings are very important factors, securing high quality and inclusive design goes beyond aesthetic considerations. I don't consider, Chairman, that members that mobile homes qualify under that criteria. So I'm happy to second this.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Patrick. Nevertheless, you're seconding the proposal. Sorry? You may indeed. Solicitor would like to make a comment.
Members, I think I should just reiterate what the planning officer has said about policy and remind something I think all members of this committee will be aware, that any planning decision must be made in accordance with the development plan unless material considerations indicate otherwise. We have an up-to-date development plan. The planning officer had indicated that there are a number of material matters. They've been reported to you. And that is the basis on which you need to make your decision in accordance with the law.
Thank you. Any other comments from officers? Right, members then. Any more comments? Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. A couple of comments really, and then reserve judgment for other parts of the debate. A couple of things have been said. First and foremost, thank the applicant for receiving all of us on Friday. I did welcome the weather. It was probably minus about 6 or 7 with a wind chill factor, and I didn't warm up until Sunday night. But apart from that, neighbouring local residents, the officer said I've received as many as 70 individual joint notifications of objections. So did I, via the email service. In the report, one of the things it said there's been an increase in fly tipping locally. Various parts of hair coursing, etc., have been possibly attributed to this site, which I find it strange because on page 21 it said the site currently has permission for use of land for stationing 2 mobile homes and 3-day vans for travelling. The paragraph just beyond that, owing to visual factors operating on a quiet and discreet basis since permission was granted. Well, I'm sure our environmental health officers or any other officers would have noted any complaints coming in to the contrary of that since the plan was approved in 2009. I don't agree with the statement, considerable harm. It is an existing site. Hedge laying. I understand that hedge was removed. However, on what would be the north, starting at the corner of the red line, following the boundary to the edge there, I noted that a hedge had been planted and laid. And on the considerable time we spent travelling through the countryside, comment was made, in particular by me, regarding hedge laying, which the farmers obviously for economic reasons don't have the time to do, and I welcome that part of it. Sorry?
No comments, Councillor Paul.
I don't know on site how many residents will occupy the site. It's a guesstimate. As for economic sustainability, who am I to say whether it's economically sustainable? You might put 4 caravans in there or 4 traveller vans in there, all with laptops and all with IT skills and earn an absolute fortune. So I don't think that can be taken into consideration. However, I have listened to all the residents. I've read many emails with the objections. I am minded that the site has not been a problem since 2009. However, I am minded that the possibility of another 7 vans on that site might just be overdevelopment, and I'm hesitant in saying that. If the numbers of those vans were reduced to make a total of possibly 6 on site plus the static, I think it would be a way forward, Chairman. I'll
Well,
reserve my judgment.
as you're aware, we're dealing with the application as it is.
Yes, it is.
Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Chairman. I think a lot of the things that we're going to say have now been said. But I will say I did go to the site visit on Friday. Yeah, I'm quite impressed by what we were told. Most of it is in the paperwork. Most of it is in the planning application. Sorry, the majority of it is in the planning application. I'm quite happy with it. I'm quite happy to go along with officers' advice. I don't see a problem. People seem to think there is, but I don't think there will be. The applicant has done it right. I was here in 2009 when this application first came through, and I went and had a site visit then. I was happy to support it then. He's now come back and he's applying again to have it expanded a bit. He's doing it all right. He's not taking caravans and having parking in a field and saying, right, I'm stopping here as long as I can. He's doing it the right way. And because we do have to have some sites in this district, I think this should be fair. And I'm happy to go along the officer's advice.
Thank you, Councillor Oden. Councillor Luke.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm quite happy to go along with the officer's advice. Having read thoroughly through the report, also read all the letters of objections that we received, and many of them, and fairly, I've looked at all their problems. But I feel this comprehensive report that we've got from our officers has answered most of the problems that I might have had with this site. I think there's no objections from highways. Northampton County Council have no objections about the extra traffic on the small country roads that people were worried about. It's been stated in the report to enlarge this site is a preferable solution to the extra sites that we need than to look out for other isolated sites that may not be as sustainable as this one. So I think this is a preferred option for us. I mean, hair coursing and fly tipping, we've been provided with no concrete evidence that attributes to the gypsy traveller side. People always assume that if gypsies are around, they're the ones causing the trouble. I don't think that's really fair. So, well, I know the councillor from Kettering, why did he support the Desborough site if he claims that gypsies are nothing but trouble? And he seems to support his community. There are troubles, there's going to be trouble on this side, but not on Desborough side.
Could I ask you very nicely if you could be quiet? I know the feelings are running out, but we'll get through the meeting a lot better.
So yeah, because of we've got our policies in place, so I think we should support this, Chairman. I really do.
Thank you, Councillor Luke. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try and be brief. The National Planning Policy Framework, as members will know, does concentrate on three aspects before a development proposal can be regarded as sustainable. That's the economic, social and environmental aspects. I can see some social benefit in this particular application for the families who are going to move on to the site. I can't see a case made out for economic benefit, and I have great concerns over the environmental aspects of this proposal. I would endorse Councillor Patchett's early remarks about Chapter 11 of the NPPF. I believe it's paragraph 109, and I'll quote from that, which planning should protect and enhance valued landscapes. Well, Chairman, this is a special landscape area, and Daventry obviously thought at the time it was of value, and the people who live there would obviously agree with that, and I would endorse that. I believe it is of value. And if this is the valued landscape, I would say it falls outside that permission, if you like, that's given by the NPPF. And that to give permission would be working outside that. I certainly think it would harm the character and appearance of the area where this is to be granted. It is a larger site than the present one. It's not a case of just infilling or putting a few more vans on the existing site. It's quite extending it by quite a bit. I think that would be an important material planning reason, which I think the committee was looking for a little while ago. The character and appearance of the area will be greatly affected. wiser people than me have said about this aspect of it. The planning inspector indeed referred to the area being despoiled, although it's the other side of the road he was talking about. I think it would be applicable to this side of the road as well. And in brief, Chairman, unless I get very compelling arguments this evening to make me change my mind, I am minded to oppose these proposals, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor B.
Thank you, Chairman. No, I was going to repeat what Councillor Patrick and Councillor Bowen just said. But I would also want to add that I think it is time that we listened to locals. You've got Ardenworth Parish Council, you've got Braybrooke Parish Council, and I think Mr Howe from Braybrooke spoke very well. You've got Harrington Parish Council, all against this application. And I think it really is about time that we start to take notice of what these parish councils have to say. So I would willingly second that we refuse this application.
We've already got a second, but I gather your support on that. Okay, Councillor B. Councillor Patchman.
Yes, on a point of clarification, we talked about the need for, I think it was 7 or 8 sites. Do we make any mention of their geographical distribution? Because it seems to me that everything that is being prepared or proposed for the gypsy traveller community appears to be in this part of the district, whereas our district is an enormous district, and it leaves, you know, if you go to the completely the other side of the district, which could be an hour away, there is no sites. So why don't we look at a more equitable distribution?
Okay, Maria will answer that.
A piece of work is planned by the West Northamptonshire Joint Planning Unit to do a piece of work. Somebody mentioned earlier that that's scheduled from September, but it will take 2 years to do that. In the meantime, in the absence of a plan, exactly in the same way as we've been having some of our joint core strategy, we have to deal with speculative applications that come in before, because we've accepted that there is a need for this specific type of accommodation. So I'm sure when the 2-year piece of work is done to identify sites, they will consider, you know, the entire district. But right now, we have no plan, we have unmet need, and really we'd have to have a very good reason to refuse, because this is an application before us to meet some of that unmet need.
That
answers my question. Thank you.
Councillor Randall.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I've listened to all the debates that have gone on this evening. There's a few things to point out. When I come to parish liaison meetings, I would say that nearly every parish within this district has got a problem with speeding traffic. So that will be number one. Number two, they've also got a problem with littering. They've also got a problem with fly tipping. And in many parts of the district, we do not have travellers, and this is a problem thereover. I think it's quite sad actually that some of the reports mentioned, you know, seem to sort of lean against that. Where there is a problem, it seems to they're leaning on that travellers are causing that problem. You know, that may be so. The rest of the district where we haven't got travellers, we've still got that problem. There's mention in here about public transport. I have yet to find a traveller actually that ever uses public transport. They generally do use their own transport. Talking about sustainability, I would imagine that many people within the village have to use their own vehicles because, as we know, bus services are very limited in most of the villages around the district. So I'd imagine that, you know, the majority of villages do rely on their transport. Going back some time, you used to find a lot of travellers on the roadside. That's when they used to cause, you know, a huge harm in the district, and actually to have them on a site, to me, you know, is much more preferable. There's a difference between having a site that is a family member is living on that site with other family members than it is if it's a public site run by the council. Because often then you've got people coming and going, and actually it is often where you get different families on that site is where you get problems. So to have, you know, a family contained on one site is much more preferable. When you look at accessing doctor surgeries. A lot of traveller communities actually deal with their illnesses within their own community. So a lot of the time they'll able to access the doctor's surgery. And, you know, speaking with health professionals, that they've often told me that. So I am mindful to go with officers as well.
Thank you. I've got a lot more hands, but I think we're getting to the point where if you haven't spoken, please contribute. But if you've spoken already, we seem to be going over the same thing again. So if anybody else wants to contribute who hasn't spoken, please stick your hand up. If not, very quick comments from Councillor Eden and Councillor Luke. Councillor Eden, you wanted to say something?
Yes, please, Chairman. I just wanted to come back because this was given approval in 2009. Well, the special landscape hasn't been put into place since then, so that was there then. It's still special landscape. You can't compare this, as was done a few minutes ago, with the one over the road. The one over the road it's spread out over a couple of fields. It's on the side of the hill and you can see it for quite a distance. This one is compact. When you go along the road, you can't see it because there's a high hedge and there's a gate. When you get round the other side, yes, you can. But only because the hedge is newly laid. It's been taken down, it's been laid properly by somebody who knew what they were doing. And in a few years' time, you won't be able to see this site from that side. And I think they're all points that point towards this being a good site.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Luke, and then I'm going to go back to the proposer to wind up.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick comment. When allocating gypsy or travellers' sites, you also have to be mindful of where they travel. Now we're putting them miles away, they're not using that area. It's got to go where the travellers travel to make their living, I would have thought. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, if there's no more from anybody that hasn't spoken, I shall go back to the proposer to sum up, and then we'll take the vote.
Yes, thank you so much. Our officer said it quite in a very clear fashion. The lack of policy has put us in that position. Also, we should really, I am quite amazed of the myth about gypsies that are. I have gone to a lot of training, I have gone to a lot of appeal, and I have lived 15 years in Aldingworth, and I promise you, it's just in 2010 that people started, the settled community started to say, well, please do help us. It's when Kettering Borough Council went to 2 public meetings in Braybrook. You are given the people of our villages a disservice to say that they haven't accepted the situation. They have accepted, but suddenly they said, please help us. We need to have better policies. And it's not a question, not in my backyard. I am so appalled by some comments that were made tonight by people who do not live in the rural community. And we all have a job to do, so I think my reasons are still standing, and I will put that forward. And also it is quite, when people get, I think, mixed up, the appeal decision across the road, if the site will have been in a sustainable location, the inspector will have given a permanent, and he didn't. The inspector, due to lack of policy, gave just a temporary application, and since then, Kettering has put their house in order, and if we are not strong in our refusal, I think we will put our neighbour in great danger, and I think it would be very unfair on Kettering, and also it would be unfair on Daventry, who is going to have their policies, and I hope that in 2 years we will have very good sight for the travellers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I apologise for speaking or you were something up.
No, do not worry.
Right, we have a proposal. Let's get it clear. You proposed overdevelopment, not sustainable, ecological and social, open countryside, GN1. Those are the three reasons you've given.
Special landscape, yes.
And special landscape combined with that. Okay? Right, the officers are saying if you add SLA, that would be a very difficult refusal.
So I will trust the officer, because
So
they
you
will have to...
just leave the ones that you've said then.
Yes.
Okay?
If,
Right.
yeah.
We have a proposal that the application be refused for the reasons given that has been seconded. All those in favour, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those against. The application is refused. 8 votes for. There will be a brief 5-minute dinner. Ladies and gentlemen, we resume. 0521 in Bowden.
Thank you, Chairman. Let's go to this application plan. What's up first? This is a report, this is an outline application for up to 41 dwellings with access to approval. The site currently forms a paddock, but in the northern extent of Northampton and the Northampton SUE, better known as Button Fields to use both members. The report sets out the consultation responses in respect of each technical matter, and it is acknowledged that having regard to these responses that there are no outstanding technical impediments to the consideration of this application. However, it is necessary to consider the policy context. It is accepted that DDC is unable to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, and having regard to policy R1G of the Joint Core Strategy, this would constitute an exceptional circumstance which would allow for development outside the confines of the village. However, also in accordance with this policy, it would only be acceptable where it would contribute and improve the local economy or enhance or maintain the vitality of rural communities. Officers consider that as a consequence of the location, the application would not accord at this particular element of the policy, and it's not evident that the proposal is intended to meet the needs of Northampton in accordance with policy S for the Joint Core Strategy. Policy S for the Joint Core Strategy refers to the sustainable urban extensions. It should also be noted the site falls within the Green Wedge, which is promoted as an area of environmental importance to the development plan. Indeed, local plan policy EM10, which seeks protection of the Green Wedge, was afforded significant weight in a recent appeal within Malton. The proposal is considered to be discordant with the predominantly open nature of the Green Wedge by reason of its use and its appearance. Overall, officers acknowledge the proposal would contribute to the 5-year land supply and that there are no outstanding technical issues to be addressed. However, the proposal would also have a significant adverse impact on the environment and the local landscape. And when assessed against the benefits, these adverse impacts would significantly and demonstrably outweigh these benefits. Accordingly, officers are recommending this application be refused. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Joan. 2 speakers, Mr. Clark, Parish Council.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for giving me time to speak to you. I don't propose to say very much because in view of the officer's recommendation to refuse this application, I'll just point out the Parish Council have written in. I think you have their letter in front of you, and I don't intend to raise therefore any of those points, but just to say I'm here on behalf of the Parish Council to endorse that letter in support of our objection to this. May I just have one further concern we had? Because I attended the Borough Council planning meeting on this and was a little confused to hear them say that this development is viewed as relating to the growth of Northampton and rather than it seemed to me that they were presenting it in that manner rather than it being in Daventry under Daventry's jurisdiction. And I think that did cause us some concerns of parish to feel that maybe we're getting absorbed into the borough. But I know that's not an issue. It's just a concern we had which I wanted to express.
We like you in Daventry District anyway from Bowden. The agent, Mrs. Stone.
application seeks to provide a total of 41 dwellings, of which a total of 16 units will be for affordable housing purposes. The application has been submitted in response to the shortfall in housing land supply in the district. This proposal seeks a relatively modest increase in housing stock compared to some of the larger schemes in villages which come before this committee. The application site, as shown on the following slide, abuts the boundary of the Northampton-related development area adjacent to the designated Northampton North or White Hill Sustainable Urban Extension, also known as Bucks Fields, and is within close proximity to the proposed North West bypass. We consider that the proposed development relates to the growth of Northampton as supported by the adjoining authority. As such, any development of this site would contribute to the Council's housing requirements in the NRDA and therefore meets the requirements of Policy S4 of the Joint Core Strategy. As members are aware, the district currently has a lack of 5-year housing land supply across the district as a whole, as upheld by a number of recent appeals. And furthermore, there is a shortfall in respect to the delivery of housing within the NRDA. This is a significant material consideration in the assessment of this current application. The site is available, achievable and deliverable in the next 3 years. As acknowledged within the officer's report, the application site is recognised to be a sustainable location with access to services and facilities. Furthermore, the proposal would also contribute financially towards enhancement of public transport services and infrastructure. There are no technical objections to this application. The officer's sole reason for refusal relates to the fact that the site falls within the green wedge. As we have demonstrated within the application, the site does not have any significant intrinsic landscape value as supported by the Council's landscape officer, or recreational, agricultural, ecological value, which is one of the aims behind the SAFE policy. We would also add that policy EN10 was derived almost 23 years ago, and during this time the policy has never been reviewed, even within the emerging settlements and countryside local plan. We would conclude that if the green wedge was of strategic importance, then it would have been included within the Joint Core Strategy. Whilst this application would involve development of land within the green wedge, the remaining area would be predominantly open and green in appearance and nature. We consider this proposal would not unreasonably reduce the physical separation between settlements. The application is modest in size and scale and cannot be extended to the west because of the position of Daventry Railway and to the east by Relford Road. In light of these considerations and given the exceptional circumstances of this case and the district's lack of a 5-year housing land supply and the contribution this scheme would have towards the supply of new homes within the NPR, when assessed against the framework, we consider the benefits derived from this development outweigh the part loss of the green wedge, and as such, I would urge members to grant outline planning permission for this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stroman. Sorry. Members. Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I will be quite brief because I would like to support Officer's advice on this particular matter, but point out that with the development of Buxton Fields and all the areas surrounding there, that one assumes this area was looked at when they did the strategic land review, the SLAR, and it was at that stage rejected, and Buxton Fields and various other SUEs were chosen. So that gives me some idea of how to support this. But it is with the SUE just to the east of it, it is pushing the boundaries of, I suppose it's Kingsthorpe, isn't it, further and further into Daventry without any break whatsoever for the rural nature of our district. And I think that we need to vigorously defend the boundaries so that there isn't this creep in these areas that aren't planned for, of which this is one. It also borders onto an extremely well-used footpath, which the Brampton Valley Way, which affords great views to the east and the west, and also you know, there are other threats coming along, like there is a proposed solar farm just to the west of it. So I would be happy to propose that we accept Officer's advice.
Thank you. That's a proposal. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Beeg. Would you like to speak, Councillor B?
Yeah, I will speak, thank you, Chairman. It's just, I will support officers' advice on this one to refuse this application. I'm talking Watkins Heath, basically. My mate has then lived in Derwent Drive in Kings Heath, and when he first lived there were no houses at the back of it. Now it's all surrounded by houses, and this is just this enclosure on the enclosure of houses being built, and I just absolutely disagree with it. So I will accept and ask the party to refuse this application.
Thank you. If there's no more speakers, we have a... Oh, sorry.
Just advice, actually, Chairman, on page 54, something that I've not come across before. Impact rezones for sites of special scientific interest. I've never come across it before. Obviously, people who've been on this committee longer than I have.
I'm sure it will be explained to you, Councillor. Have you got it?
Sorry?
There isn't a site next to the site, so if it is, there's two gates and things for you to...
Right, Maria knows the answer, apparently.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, through you, Chairman, I think basically Natural England is what is their standard response. In other words, check this piece of the map against our standard advice, and that's your answer, as opposed to giving us a detailed response.
Right. Okay, we have a... Carol, we don't have yet. Councillor Patchett first, and then Councillor Major.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just one question, really. Do we know what our current land supply figure is at the present moment?
The answer to that is no. We know it's 4.6 to 4.7, isn't it?
Yeah.
4.2 to 4.83.
Right, Councillor Major.
Just a quick question. I've not come across an application that's been recommended for refusal in conjunction with unanimous disapproval from local parish councils. So I was just wondering why this has come up at all.
Why it's come to committee?
Yes.
Because it's committee policy.
Yeah. You can't just refuse something like this. It's a policy job. Okay. It's got to come to committee.
In accordance with the scheme of mitigation, Chairman, it doesn't have to, but as a matter of routine, we tend to when there are major policy challenges.
Got it.
We think it's important for committee to see that that's happening.
We get criticised for taking ones off the agenda anyway. If you'd have seen the problems that one of our officers has had tonight, because we took the last one off the agenda, and we took it off the agenda because the consultation period hadn't ended. Can you imagine what it would be like if somebody had complained about that? The council would have been really in trouble. Yes, the officer spent all night answering problems on that one. So anyway, we've got a proposal the application be refused, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous, yeah. Okay. So there's nobody against. This is unanimous. Right, the application is refused. The next application is 058 in Crick. This was subject to a site viewing panel. Right, members, Crick, subject to a site viewing panel.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for a construction of a single dwelling off Oak Lane in Crick. Members will recall this application. It was deferred from the previous committee for a site visit, which occurred on Friday. The applicants have submitted additional drawings to show how the building could accommodate the garaging. These are the barns, the current brick barns. Yeah. Just opening the pictures at the moment. So those garages before all those buildings will be converted into 2 double garages. The main issue is whether members consider there is harm to the designated heritage asset, character of the locality and residential amenity. Officers consider that the development is in accordance with the development plan and should be approved without delay. Officers therefore consider that there will be not harm to the character of the locality, heritage assets or amenities of the residential properties. Members' attention are drawn to late representations. The application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We were offered on site by the lady next door in that listed building house. If we wanted to go around there to see it from her side, we could do. Every member was asked that. Members considered that what we saw was adequate and we didn't need to go around that. So that's for members who didn't attend the site visit. Your comments, please. Councillor Irving-Smith, then Councillor Frenchman.
Well, having been on the site visit, yes, it will have a little impact on the setting of the listed houses, but if we put a very strict condition on the material used for the roof, I think we will have, it would be very difficult for us now to go against officer advice. Thank you. So I propose that we approve, providing we have some strict condition about the material that and the wall that is listed, and the material of the roof and the brick.
The materials used.
Can I come back? In the sense that there is condition 4 already regarding the materials, and obviously as officers we make sure that they are appropriate to that particular cost. Just to
Councillor Frenchman.
I was actually going to make exactly the same point and ask if a condition could be put on in line with the parish council's observations about the use of stone and or brick.
Can I come back in the sense, sort of obviously there is an existing condition 4 proposed to ask for materials to be submitted to. I know that the parish council referred to their finished design statements where materials should be appropriate to the area. As you noticed by the photos, there's a range of materials in that particular vicinity, stone as well as brick. Even the front of the listed building is actually stone with some of it brick to the rear. The existing wall is brick. And also with outbuildings, especially as it's been designed as an outbuilding, on this particular site, as you see by the photos to the rear, is actually brick itself. So what we can just do is make sure the materials are appropriate and yes to that.
So I'm happy to second the proposal.
You second it, thank you. Councillor Patchett.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, in principle, I've got no problem with the site being developed, and in fact, the property being on there, and indeed the garage is being renovated. So I believe, I mean, I have been on a site visit, but I went on my own because I couldn't attend on Friday. With the whole issue really, with the neighbours and everybody else around, is the actual height of the development. Now, I mean, it's my personal opinion that a single-storey dwelling, perhaps up to about 4.5 metres, would sit in there quite nicely. And in fact, the developer of the new houses at the back, I understand that the reason 4 bungalows are in fact on the other side of that site was because of the detriment of the listed building. Now, you come along 12 months later, 18 months later, and say, well okay, we'll just stick a 2-storey house in between the aspect. And, you know, it just seems a bit at odds with me, and I don't agree with what this advice goes.
Okay. Well, actually, on site we were all the site people were given the height of the building, the height of the eaves. It was marked out. We can actually see it, and I think members, when they saw it, weren't that concerned about the effect that it would have on the building. It seemed more serious when we were discussing it at the previous meeting. Right, now, somebody in the back row before you put their hand up, was it you, Councillor In that case, Wendy will go for you.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Randall, sorry.
I did have concerns actually with the site, and I thought that it would be overdevelopment of that site. I had real concerns actually with that stone wall, because often, I mean, I don't know if that stone wall's got footings, but I'm told that often old walls don't have footings. It was already parting in sections of that wall. Now, if you're digging down and putting footings in a new building, you know, what is put in place to make sure that that wall stays pinned? And I did have concerns with it. I just felt it was complete overdevelopment on that site.
Catherine, you want to make it?
Yes, thank you. In a sense, because as there's a tree which has got subject to tree protection order on it, there is also a condition regarding the proposed foundations for the proposal, so that they potentially have to be palm beam or raft foundations in order to accommodate the roots under the trees. So potentially there may not be as an impact on the wall as possible, because most times when you use that type of foundation you have to use it for the whole house. But in regards to the wall, any potential development has potential of an impact on adjoining properties, whether it's damage or anything like that. Our conservation officer raised no concerns at the time of this application in the development of it. In any case, if any damage does occur, then it's up to the developer to put those right. And as it's a listed wall, or part of the curtilage of the listed building, we would have to make sure that it goes back properly. And in accordance with Councillor Patchett's comments regarding why the bungalows were made bungalows to the David Wilson site behind, from my understanding, from reading the previous officer's report on that site, was for views towards Cracks Hill and maintaining those views, which as officer's opinion, we consider that this property will still afford those views towards Cracks Hill. The applicants have lowered the ridge, and it's still a single-storey property, just with rooms in the roof, with phalanx windows.
Okay. Councillor Barrett.
There's a question, Chairman, if the officers could help with this. I noticed with the tree preservation order, there is a silver birch, and it's recommended a condition needs to be put on it relating to the type of foundations to be submitted to and approved in writing by the LPA. Now, can the officers tell us whether that is something that we should be concerned with this evening, or is it something that the officers would deal with as a matter of routine at a later stage?
They deal with it. It's
thank you very much.
Normally, officers
that's one
deal
concern
with it.
less I've got. Thank you.
Councillor Paul, quick comment.
Yeah, thank you. I have. Sorry, I defer to my colleague.
You've got the hand of age.
Councillor, no, I do apologise. I think you missed me when you were here as well.
Which one would you like, Chairman?
Come on, Paulie. Councillor Paul, sorry.
Page 81, the top of the page, parking spaces on the plan are on land which does not belong to the development. We saw it on Friday, parking on the grass outside. I don't think is appropriate. I have to agree with my colleague behind me. I'm concerned about the over-development of the site, purely simply on the parking issue. However, I note again on page 81, if you are minded to recommend approval, I would suggest conditions for restriction of PD rights to prevent it becoming overly extended and too large in the future. So whilst I am concerned about overdevelopment, I think that paragraph, if it's included in the conditions, actually covers it.
Catherine, do you want to comment?
Thank you, Chairman. In the sense of the parking, sort of typical guidance is 1.5 per space per dwelling. In the sense of land ownership, this matter was raised with the applicants. As far as they were concerned, everything is within their ownership. Regardless of that, the highways don't have an objection to the proposal. As you can see, there's parking enough for 2 double garages to the back in the barns, which has got turning space. So, in a sense, you've got sufficient parking there. If you're concerned about overdevelopment or the removal of permitted development rights, again, I draw your attention to the conditions, especially in condition number 8, where it actually removes permitted development rights. So if there is any potential of extension on the site,
I missed that one, I do apologise.
then we have the opportunity to consider, and sort of, as you can see in front of you there, in the site location plan, it's quite densely populated around there in any case, so in a sense it is in keeping with the immediate character.
If I can come back, Chairman, on concern, being a townie, I have concern that developers hook into the 1.5 parking spaces, and I've yet to drive down the road and see half a car going around the corner in front of me. And if you take Daventry as an example, in particular the Timpkin estate, the other estate on the A361, which escapes my Middlemore, the parking is a problem, and I think as a council we should get away with this, or convince developers that 1.5 parking spaces is hardly sufficient.
We don't set the rules then, on the national rules.
It is a guidance, as I understand. I could be corrected by the officers, but there is enough damage done, and our dust collectors, emergency services are complaining day in, day out about the fact that they can't travel round estates like Timpkin, Middlemore, because of this 1.5 parking spaces.
Catherine?
Just to come back to a few clarification, in a sense, yes, 1.5 is a guideline. Where this property is, it's, as I've mentioned, it's proposing 2 double garages for the existing property and the proposed property, which is, in the case, is more than the 1.5 in any case. So, in sort of the council or the ICE officers' view, it provides sufficient parking.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Patchett, now we'll go to the vote.
I just wanted to ask if I may ask a question after the vote.
After the vote? Yeah. No, it'd be better to ask it before the vote.
Well, I was just going to say that if we agreed to officers' advice now, then it might be something from a training point of view that we go to what wants to do.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I think that's a good suggestion. When we do go and have a look at some sites, we want to see ones that have failed and ones that haven't failed, and ones that we've approved and ones that we could look at it in the future when it's done.
On the annual tour.
Yes, good point, Councillor Patchett. Right, we have a proposal that the application be approved, which has been seconded.
Can I have 2 sentences?
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. You've got the several people. I do apologise. Councillor Eden, and then 2 behind you.
Oh, no. I just wanted to say that I did go on the site visit on Friday.
You did indeed.
And I was very pleased to see not just the outline of the signs pegged out on the ground, but also something to tell us with the height.
Yeah.
That's something we don't see very often, and that did help an awful lot. I've no problem with it. I go along with officers' advice, but the parish council, I would say, are very quick. I know you say you've got conditions for the materials, etc. But the garages, or the stables that are going to become the garages, are red brick. And if you have a good look at the listed wall, it's not so much showing now, but they are red brick. They've discoloured, they've got moss growing on them. But originally it was red. And this bungalow looks as though it will sit nicely in that ground. It will look a darn sight better than those concrete slab garages that are there at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett?
No, Chairman, I was very eagerly voting, actually, according to your instructions.
Councillor Major, are you...
yes, I am.
You're voting as well. Okay.
Very keen on this side this evening.
We've got a proposal that the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in agreement, please show now. Or for have our old IPs. Right, those against? 10 to 2, the application is approved. Thank you.
Chair, can I just say something on parking?
Yep.
As I understand it, we can set any policy we want on parking numbers. Daventry have set a 1.5. In our neighbourhood plan, which we're putting forward, we're proposing significantly more. So the policy here could be changed, and the government thoughts on it are guidance only. No, but what I'm saying is we could have a policy of 2 if we wanted.
Equally, it could be.
It seems ridiculous to have 1.5.
Through you, Chairman, it might be absolutely applicable to have less than 1.5, depending on the type and the location of development. So.
No, we never agree with that.
In town centres, it's not unusual, and big cities, it's not unusual to have no parking.
Well, that's slightly different.
Just to say now, cars are getting smaller.
So we might be 2 cars.
Everybody's going to buy Fiat 500s or smart cars. French, no, they're Italian, aren't they? Yeah. Right, we move on to Malton.
Thank you, Chairman.
0916.
The application seeks consent for the construction of 2 dwellings with attached garages. The site clearly lies in compliance with Malton Village and forms part of the side and rear garden of 27 Ashley Lane. Proceeding the report, the history indicates that the previous application was refused for 2 dwellings, but following further discussions with officers, this amended application before you has been submitted. The amended application has removed the dormers, which were on the previous application, and replacing with roof lights. And in addition, a noise assessment has been submitted to demonstrate the impact of noise disturbance on neighbouring properties. The noise assessment has been subject to consultation with environmental health officers, and they have concluded the proposal will not give rise to any significant impacts. Concerns have been raised by both parish councils and neighbours, and these concerns relate to overdevelopment of the site, safe means of access, and the impact on the needs of neighbouring properties. Officers can consider the plot sizes are reflective of those at Edy Close and to the south of Ashley Lane and cannot be considered as overdevelopment of the site. It's accepted that on backland sites, the dwellings should be single-storey unless it can be demonstrated that higher buildings will not be enduringly dominant. In this case, officers consider the distance between dwellings, together with use of roof lights as opposed to dormer windows, would ensure that residential amenities or neighbouring dwellings would not be significantly compromised. Regards to the proposed access, the submitted noise assessment has been subject to review by the Environmental Health Officer as previously stated. It's also noted that some concerns have been raised regarding safe means of access, and the application has also been subject to consultation with the Highway Authority, which is not to raise any objections, but requests the imposition of conditions. Overall, it's considered this amended application adequately addresses the reasons cited in the previous reason for refusal, and this current amended application should be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Jo. We have a speaker, Mrs Hope, who's against the application.
I represent a group of objectors from Ashley Lane and Edy Close properties. A previous application for 2 dormer bungalows on the land to the rear was refused in 2002 for reasons of overdevelopment. A true single-storey bungalow was approved in 2004, the approval for which the applicant chose to allow to lapse. This particular approved application included a new driveway to serve the existing property and for the existing access to serve only the proposed single dwelling, reducing noise impact on adjacent properties. An application again for 2 dwellings was submitted late 2013 and was refused in January last year, with overdevelopment, dormers and roof lights and noise and disturbance affecting amenities cited. We consider the impact on the amenity of surrounding residents still remains in this current application, which again is an overdevelopment of 2 proposed dwellings and with roof lights. We consider the reasons for refusals still stand, as does the parish council. We dispute the noise report done for the applicant, which we consider biased towards them, with the applicant being the client of the report's author. Furthermore, the case officer highlights partial gravelling of the access and not block paving for the whole length to mitigate against noise. Despite this report, there is still the case of additional noise and disturbance which appears not to have been considered, arising from vehicles needing to reverse if one is trying to access the site whilst another is trying to exit. particularly in view of the length of the proposed access way of more than 52 metres and its width unable to allow vehicles to pass one another. Unlike the application approved in 2004, it's proposed that 3 properties share this one access. Ashley Lane and Edie Close properties do not object to one true single-storey dwelling built in likeness to Edie Close properties and with similar restrictions. Numbers 2, 3 and 4 of Edie Close have restrictions to development at first floor level and the requirement for sewage effluent to be pumped into main sewage system. This would mitigate the potential for odour nuisance and foul water runoff from septic tanks and the need for regular poo lorries to pass in close proximity to the main side elevation window of number 25 Ashley Lane, as the boundary is only 1.4 metres from the side elevation, as evidenced by an old metal boundary stake with the hedge within the curtilage of number 25. Finally, if approved, consideration needs to be given to the setting of conditions to restrict any future development to elevations at the first floor level, for block paving along the full length of the access way, for closed board fencing along the side of elevation to support the hedge in mitigation of noise and disturbance. However, we seek your refusal for this overdevelopment, as does the Parish Council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Owen. Members, we don't have a modern member on this committee.
Not anymore.
So, Councillor Frenchman, kick off.
I was just concerned by what the Mrs. Hope just said about the driveway possibly being gravel. I wonder if officers could comment on that, because that would significantly increase the noise and nuisance of to those 2 houses, 27 and 25.
If I could just raise that issue, certainly, where noise assessment have been submitted and taken the servicing into account in terms of noise and disturbance to that neighbouring property. However, if members would feel more reassured, we could certainly put a condition on that, would request the submission of the servicing materials to be submitted for our approval and our consideration.
Actually, it's got payment on the plan.
Yeah, so it's block paving,
So
isn't
it's block paving on the
it?
plan. Can you clarify the width of the driveway? I think that's probably the other point I would suggest. Please to clarify, Chairman.
Sorry?
The width of the driveway.
Oh yes, because it was stated that it was a lot narrower than that, wasn't it?
Through you, Chairman, I can confirm that it does state on the plan that it will be block paving. If members feel more reassured by the implementation of the condition, then I'm sure that the applicant wouldn't object to that servicing materials being submitted for approval.
Okay.
And also, coming back to Mrs. Hope's concerns regarding the proposed access, you'll also see on the plan before us tonight that the width of the access is 4.5 metres at the entrance of the access. That's sufficient to allow 2 cars to pass that point.
Right, Councillor Irving-Swell.
Yes, about the access and the block paving. The problem with block paving, I think now under laws they don't like to have too many block paving because of the water, and they want the water to go into the soil. So are we going to create more of a problem? And if the block paving is not completely stable, we're not talking about cobble street here. So if the block paving are all the way and to Scandal Road, the water will have to run. And I don't know the side of the line, how it is, so will that cause a problem or not?
Through you, Chairman, I'd just like to advise you that block paving these days can be created to be permeable, so that wasn't. And I think the condition, as the members are minded to approve the application, would also address that particular point.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Luke.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. Well, with the enlightenment on the block paving, it seems that having a condition where officers approve the surface of the driveway would be sufficient. And with the other conditions that we've approved,
I would second the proposal that we support officers' advice.
Nobody's proposed it yet. You can be the first, right? Right, the next, you're the seconder.
I'll second.
Right, you can speak out of turn then, because I've got Councillor Patchett, then you, so as you're the seconder, you can speak.
Well, looking at it, it looks as though since the last application was refused, the applicant has been working with the officers to sort out the reasons why we weren't happy last time, and seems to have made a good job of it. Looking at our local policies, etc., it seems to fit in with all of them. And the one for, lost it now, sorry, the Joint Cut Strategy, Policy R1, it fits in with that. So for those reasons, I'm happy to second it.
Thank you. Councillor Patchett.
Yeah, two questions really. First of all, perhaps I've missed it, but could you tell me what the ridge height is of the reach of the dwelling? And also, the roof height, are those comparable with the existing ones in the other ones in the road that have got roof lights, corners, that kind of thing? I mean, are the windows all an existing sort of height, same height?
Are we referring to the dwellings at Edy Close? This is the height of the dwellings at Edy Close?
No, the new ones.
What are the new
Yes, the new ones at the back
ones?
are Edy Close, yeah.
Yeah.
Bungalows at the back are at Edy Close. I believe that the current height of the proposed dwellings is 7 metres compared to the height at Edy Close to be about 5 to 6 metres. So they are taller. But again, the emphasis is on the reason for the previous reason for refusal. The emphasis on that previous reason for refusal was that it was unnamed by loss of privacy and noise and disturbance to adjoining properties and neighbours. In particular, this application has sought to address those concerns and remove that loss of privacy by installation of those roof lights.
But I mean, you can put roof lights anywhere on the roof. I mean, you can put them at the top and the bottom.
Metres to the bottom sill.
So you won't be able to look out of the roof lights.
Unless you're sexually tall.
So I mean, really, what so the ridge height of these new properties is going to be 1.5 metres taller than the existing ones in the road.
To the Edy Close, yes, the ones at the back, yes.
That seems rather large.
Councillor Randall.
Yeah, no, I've got a problem with the height. It always amazes me that sort of a bungalow dwelling is taller than or the same height as a two-storey house. And obviously, you know, listening that actually, yes, there was approval for, one bungalow at the rear of the property, and we've heard that that's lapsed and now it's come back. And, you know, I've mentioned many times on outline application that I do have a problem when things are a certain height and then they come back and they seem to be a lot taller. But obviously, just listening to what you're saying is, this has already gone away and come back, and we can't go back to the original application, can we? We've got to look at it.
Consider this one,
yeah. Now, so obviously we can't backtrack to those points.
Can I ask the officer, Craig, can we have a condition that can ensure that you can't build the thing and then 1 year later you stick in dormers? Or is that the fact that it's so tall that you can't do that?
Unfortunately not, Chairman. However, should the application be presented, I'm sure officers would ensure that it came before committee again and would consider the reason why this particular application, if members are minded to, was approved and why previous applications were also refused, and consider those aspects.
Thank you. Any more comments, members? If not, we have a proposal that the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Right, those against?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, the application is approved. With the conditions, yeah. Right, the next application is 0948 and it's in Brighton. When the pictures arrived, there we are.
Thank you, Chairman. The application seeks consent from the first part. Thank you. The application seeks consent for change in use of a retail dwelling with rear extensions, elevational changes and also an access drive. The buildings originally formed a baker's cottage and ancillary shop attached and not two separate units. Two previous applications have been submitted but were both withdrawn due to concerns expressed from the Highway Authority. Representations received indicate that there are no concerns regarding the proposed roof extensions or the elevational changes. These concerns are limited to the proposed new access. Obstacles with a small amount of hedge to be removed, and a short length of track which will be screened by the remaining hedge, and its position in the corner of the field would not be detrimental to the streets nor compromise the integrity of the special landscape area. The proposal now addresses the Highway Authority's concerns expressed in the previous application, and there are no other concerns raised. Accordingly, Officer recommending this application be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Two speakers, Mr Atkinson, who's against the proposal.
I'm speaking. I'm
You're-
speaking for who, is that okay?
Yes, yeah.
I'm the partner.
Right.
We live next door to a vacant cottage at Applegarth, which is a Grade 2 listed property. We'd just like to point out that we've been out of the country and were therefore unable to make an objection until our return on the 19th of December. We submitted this by email, but we haven't received an acknowledgement, so we're just keen to get on record that we're objecting. We've got two main objections: the impact on Applegarth and the impact on the local environment. As regards Applegarth, the use of the proposed new access would directly impact our quality of life because the drive would pass within feet of the boundary of our rear garden, impairing our environment both visually and hourly and intruding upon what is at present peaceful privacy. We're also concerned that it will make our property less secure. It seems out of keeping with the village properties in general to have vehicle access through the full length of the rear garden and in close proximity to an adjoining boundary. Whilst the proposed plan is for 4 vehicles, on occasions when people are visiting Baker's Cottage, there's nothing to stop the rear garden becoming tantamount to a car park right next to our back garden, which we consider to be unacceptable, especially in a rural location such as this. As regards the local environment, the proposed drive would cut through and spoil what is and always has been a completely enclosed paddock. It's our opinion that from a purely practical point of view, it's highly likely that the residents of Baker's Cottage will have parked their vehicles on Main Street, as this is where the most convenient access to the property is. We think that provision to cut through the hedged paddock is unnecessary and will spoil the environment forever. We note in the recommendation for approval on page 10, paragraph 6, the Highways Authority commented, quote, that it would be prepared to remove its objection if the shop was incorporated into the residential accommodation to make one new dwelling. This was considered to be an acceptable solution, but the applicant wanted 2 dwellings, so the solution to this had to be the provision of the alternative access. We beg to differ. A better solution may be to continue parking on Main Street for the refurbished cottage using the available space, and continue using the side access for the shop as it's always been, thus preserving the existing environment for the village as a whole. We're supportive of the views of the parish council and object in our own right to the creation of the rear access drive to Baker's Cottage.
Thank you. Could you point out, so that members of the committee know, which is your house? Just put your finger on it.
We're there, 4 cars and maybe more up and down there.
Yeah,
At the
okay.
moment, that's a lawn
Yeah.
with a picket fence in between.
Okay, so thank you very much. Right, Chairman of the Parish Council, Mr Thornley.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Brighton Parish Council isn't opposed to development in keeping with the scale, nature and unique character of the parish. Just wanted to start with that. Regarding this particular application, we have seen it before. We have absolutely no objection to the redevelopment of the buildings themselves and the conversion of the effectively vacant commercial property into a residential property. We have, however, raised concerns about the highway access to the property, and I'm particularly concerned about the newly proposed vehicle access across the paddock at the back. It is an agricultural field, and it will result in the hedgerow, the entrance to hedgerow being created. Remove a section of that, as well as significant trimming back of the hedge. It's a 90-metre hedge that runs down the road beside there. We feel that this element of the proposal would be disproportionate to the redevelopment of the reading rooms, of the existing building. The hedge represents a fairly unique break in the linear development of the village. It creates a mix of urban and rural development and draws your eye down from the top part of the village and connects it to the lower part of the village. The access would be across the existing agricultural field, and the report doesn't make it clear whether this access route itself, as opposed to the development, is within the confines of the village or not. It's important, this is an important fact given that other applications have been recently rejected on the basis that they were to access agricultural land in the village. We believe there'll be a significant impact on the form and character and the visual amenity of the village, which is contrary to a number of relevant planning policies, in particular those relating to development in rural area, the restricted infill village and special landscape area. We don't think these policies, we don't feel they've been adequately considered in the officer's report. Indeed, your own conservation officer says that they don't believe that the proposals would maintain or enhance the character or appearance of the local area. So in summary, we have no objection to the redevelopment of the property itself. Our concern focuses on the impact of the newly proposed access route, which we think will impact on the unique character of the community and the visual amenity of the parish, and has the risk of setting precedent. You can see the hedgerow on the left there. It's about 3 metres higher than the road. And if this was to be approved contrary to these concerns, we'd like to see suitable conditions proposed to restrict future use of the access road. For example, removal of permitted development rights or other protected provisions, and other adequate safeguards to protect the remaining hedge and the agricultural land which this would cross. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Members, Councillor Irving Swift.
Yes, the paddock, is that classified as agricultural land?
Is it what, sorry?
Is it classified as agricultural land?
Yes.
Yes. So to carry on with that, to put a farmer, will a farmer be able to put an opening in the hedge and a road without any other planning application? With a farmer
due to the distance it is from a classified road, if they were to put a track in there to access the field, they'll be applied for prior approval.
Through you?
Yes.
Members know this side, do they?
Yeah, I'm just, sorry Chairman, I'm just confused with the access.
The access is straight through there.
Right, so if we look at the right, that's plain close, and the access is just a little bit further down. So I hear residents' concerns regarding impact on the street scene and the character of the area. However, you'll see there already is an access which serves the prime course, the right-hand side. As officers, we don't feel that the proposed access would be detrimental to the street scene, given the track itself would be predominantly screened by the access to the potential of that hedge.
Councillor Mrs. Lee, would you put your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It is a planning application for 2 houses, not 1. So that's what we have to consider, I think, here, because that's what the developer wants. And for it to, the highways to agree to it, we have to have that new entrance. Officers do not think it will be detrimental to the street scene. I tend to agree with them, and I think considering what we've got here, to me it seems quite sustainable, and I would like for us to advise. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are you proposing that?
Yes, Chair.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Evans. Would you like to speak, Councillor Evans?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, you can speak later on if you like. Right, any more comments? Councillor Patchett? Yes, then Councillor Frenchman.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me really is the big wide arc of the driveway there. I mean, why was it not kept tighter so it made a crossroads to Pine Court? I mean, why is that big parcel of land? It's sectioned away from the agricultural field there.
To be frank with you, I don't really know, but I would assume that there are concerns regarding noise and disturbance. The closer you put it to people's rear gardens, the more likelihoods that they will raise a concern with respect to the noise disturbance by reason of traffic coming close to their rear gardens boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, if I was being cynical, I mean...
Furthermore, I would expect that the Highway Authority would raise some concerns regarding proximity in terms of safety to the existing main highway.
So it wouldn't be good to make it crossroads. You think highways wouldn't be?
Well, the cynical answer would be it would open it up easily for development.
Yeah.
So that would be the cynical answer.
I think the key point is, through you, Chairman, is that what's proposed, there's no highways objection. So how we got to that, neither here nor there when we're not objecting.
Right. Councillor Frenchman
Thank
after
you.
Councillor Patchett, and
I
went Councillor Ramble.
You've actually alluded to what I was going to say, was that the rather cynical part of me is thinking that's a nice drive to develop that whole field, never mind the quadrant in that corner, which would make a very nice house plot, I guess. But there's nothing we can do about that, I guess. But what I'm concerned about is the hedge, the magnificent looking hedge, which this is being breached by, and I'm wondering whether there is any protection we can give to the remaining part of the hedge. I don't know whether you can list hedges or you put TPOs on them or whatever the case may be, to protect it against similar degradation.
Discussion at this moment, Councillor Frenchman.
I believe because it's part of an agricultural field protected hedgerow in any case, Councillor Frenchman.
But does that mean that if somebody else wants to put a hole in it, they've got to apply for planning permission?
Yes. Or hedgerow removal.
Oh, is that?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. So nobody can do anything without prior approval, basically.
Without seeking consent from the local authority first.
Okay. Thank you.
Could I ask a question? Should that road, should it be given planning permission, could then you put another 3 houses off there as being served at 5 off a private drive? Without planning permission?
Not without planning permission.
They can't use the existing drive?
They could propose to use the existing drive, but should an application come in, that might be for members to consider.
Right, okay, thank you. Right, who else wants to speak? I've got Councillor Randall.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've got huge concerns with cutting through a hedge, like that, and I'm sure really the conservation officer would prefer not to see way through that hedge. As it is at the moment, where I assume that the cars park out the front, and is there ample provision for front parking?
No.
No.
You see it? There's a bit. There's some pictures with it showing.
I went by there last night.
But obviously I can't see how wide you probably the road is for the cars going.
I went by there last night as a quick judge, and there were cars parked right up to the actual junction. You had to go on the wrong side of the road by 5 or 6 cars to get there, so parking is a problem there. Councillor Irving Swift.
Yes, I might have a stupid question, but we speak of a road. Can we leave it as a farm tract, as it would be through a paddock, or do you have to have it up to standard of a private drive?
Officer.
I'm not quite clear.
We have to go with what's proposed.
What you're proposing.
The quality of the
drive.
Yes.
In terms of the width of the drive that's been proposed, and this is being considered by the Highway Authority, and it's been considered to be acceptable based on the width of the drive.
What's the matter? The thing is, in the previous application, we specify a certain material or whatever.
Are you alluding to a condition?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm trying to
In which
be...
case, yes, if there are still concerns regarding the surfacing of the drive, rather than using...
it says gravel on the plan.
Yes, I'm not convinced that the County Highway Authority would accept gravel, to be honest,
No.
though it's stated on the plans. The reason being they normally request that it's hard surface for at least the first 5-10 metres of the drive to avoid disposal of any materials onto the main highway. So again, if members feel more reassured, I'm sure we can impose a condition again related to the surfacing of the drive again.
Because that is the only, if we are minded to propose, that would be the only condition we could impose.
Sorry, any more comments from members?
Sorry, if we are minded to propose, that would be the only condition we could impose on the drive after the...
I think the application is specifying brindle blocks and gravel.
I have no proposal before me, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Councillor.
Oh, we do?
Councillor
Yes.
Luke proposed and Councillor Edmund seconded.
Yes.
Proposed
Okay.
agreed, Councillor Edmund.
Right, all those in favour of that
So
proposal?
can we add that condition about the drive?
If Councillor Luke is minded to amend her proposal to include that,
That's what members feel.
You're happy with that?
So what is the condition?
just the surfacing, details of surfacing to be some sensible approval.
Okay. All those in favour of that, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Can you put your hands up a bit higher? We can't see them all. All right? Okay, Councillor Major, we can see yours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, those against? 7-4. The application is approved. With the conditions on the driveway. The next application is 0966 in West Haddon.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application in the parish of West Haddon. The description on the application or on the papers before you needs to be altered for the conversion of existing building to residential with the extension to form an attached garage. The site benefits from permitted development to change the building to residential by permitted development application 2014, number 14. Under Class MB. Class MB does not allow for the extensions to agricultural barns when they're converted to residential. The application for the conversion is the same as the application under the Community Development Commission. The difference of this application is the inclusion of a new garage building with a slight increase in residential curtilage to allow for turning. The scheme has been amended during the application process from a detached double garage to an attached single garage, so it becomes more of an L-shape in the area which is shown by the rubble in front of you. Given the strong material considerations in this particular case, the application is recommended for approval as it's now considered to be appropriate to its surroundings. Members' attention is drawn to late representations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Clark is the agent.
Thank you, Chairman, members, officers. I act on behalf of Mrs Anne Haygate, who's the applicant. I'd just like to stress that the applicant has worked closely with your officers to amend the scheme. Originally the scheme was for a double garage detached, and through negotiation that's been reduced to a single garage as an extension to the barn. I don't know if you can bring the photograph up again of the barn, but thank you. The position of the extension is on the where that previous building was and has fallen down, so it's extending the barn. Officers think that the scheme has been sensibly designed, won't impact on the character of the barn or the area, and is in line with your policies. So would respectfully ask that you would grant planning permission. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I'm the local member there. I don't have a problem with it at all. So that's my comment. Councillor Irving-Swift.
Am I right to think that if we will not have the problem of the garage, it will be a permitted development?
Yes.
So I think on balance, the garage is, and because I hear what the parish said, and it's not, you have no scope for further development on that side. At the moment, as it stands on planning policy.
Yes, and also there is permitted development rights being recommended to be withdrawn.
Yes, exactly. So I will go with officer advice.
I think you'll find members, there'll be a lot of these coming.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Councillor Frenchman.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Could I ask you a quick question? What does MB mean?
MB is within the permitted development allowances for different classes.
Stand for some.
It's just class. It's just class
sorry, I
MB.
thought it was, okay, I thought it was an acronym. Okay, that's fine.
Right, some more hands went up. Can you, Councillor Paul?
Roof materials, Chairman, wasn't very clear on the picture. Looks almost like asbestos.
Yes, okay. Yeah, no, they're currently asbestos. They're planned to be replaced with slates.
Right, with all the usual asbestos requirements.
Yes, that's outside.
Yeah.
Any more hands?
Thank you.
Right, we've got a proposal that the application be approved. It's been seconded. All those show, please. It's unanimous. The application is approved. Right. The next one is 0988 in Hillwood.
Chairman, I'm not sure I can add too much to this report, Chairman. There the application proposes an extension to an existing industrial unit sited in an existing established industrial estate. There have been no objections raised by any consultees. The proposal will contribute to broadening employment opportunities within Daventry without any detriment to the community area or compromise the highway safety. And consequently recommending this application be approved.
Thank you. It's only on the agenda for one reason, and that's its our own application, okay? Councillor Irving-Swift?
I propose that we go with officer.
Right, officials. Well, look, choose the hands.
Can the local member speak?
No.
Do you want to, no. Do you want to speak? Probably, I'll give you 10 seconds.
Right, okay. I'll count down.
2.
Yeah, the extension is going to be on brownfields. The most important thing is on page 145, where another 25-ish employees. It highlights the progressive nature of our council. It's a sign and example of our positive agenda, and there's a way that we're promoting investment into the town. So obviously I had a word with the portfolio holder for regeneration, and he is of the same mind as me that with wisdom our planning committee will approve the application.
For planning reasons. Right, we've got a proposal that it be accepted, which has been seconded. All those agreed, please show. That's unanimous. Yeah. Okay, thank you, members. We're going to get the time wrong here. I can see it happening. Right, the next application is 1031 in Hollowell.
Thank you, Chairman. The application seeks consent for the construction of 2-storey extensions to the side and rear of Hollowell Mill. The property, which was a former industrial mill building, was granted consent for conversion to residential in 1994 and lies in a prominent position in the open countryside. in the granting approval for the conversion, all property development rights were removed. The building is not cited in the conservation area, nor is it listed. However, the mill is noted in the 1086 Doomsday Survey for Hollowell, making the presence of the mill a fundamental aspect in the establishment of the settlement of Hollowell. Therefore, officers consider that this building to be of historical significance and certainly worthy of being an undesignated heritage asset. The need to conserve and enhance such assets is set out within the development plan policies mentioned in the report. In addition, the NPPF advises that a balanced judgment will be required having regard to the scale of any harm and the significance of an heritage asset. When determining such assets, that we need to consider the benefits of the proposal and whether or not such benefits will outweigh the harm. Officers consider the simple rectangular form of the building and its isolated location are important characteristics which help to define its original use, and these characteristics should be conserved. The proposed extensions will substantially increase and complicate the simple footprint of the former mill building within this plot with harm to its inherent character and appearance. The isolation and simplicity of the existing building within its immediate setting would be undermined by the presence of the large extensions, which would in turn undermine the local distinctiveness of the area and the ability to appreciate the historical significance of the mill and its wider landscape. It's undeniable that in the wider context that I would be drawn to the extensions. In regard to these considerations, Officer of the view that on balance in this particular instance, the benefits do not outweigh the harm that's been proposed, will result as a result of the extensions. Consequently, I recommend that this application be refused, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. We have a speaker who is the applicant, Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillors, officers. I'm the applicant for this planning application and have lived at Hollowell Mill for some 16 years. Although on the face of it, it looks like a large property, in fact it's narrow in width and all the rooms are small and not suited to family accommodation. Internally, there are none of the features which relate to its history as a water mill. For this reason, no doubt, it is not listed and it is also not in any conservation area. Following withdrawal of an earlier application, we believe that we had followed advice to extend it in a linear form and to retain as much of the exterior of the original building as possible. We also took care to note the advice in the Hollowell and Teton Design Guide, and you'll see the support of the Parish Council for this application. We consider this to be a good example of an extension to an historic property. In addition, there are letters of support from 6 of our neighbours and no letters of objection. The basis of the extension design was to retain all of the elevations of the original building as far as possible. The plans you have before you show the extension linking to the rear of the main building where the original water mill was located, this having been renovated since that permission was granted to previous owners. So the majority of the rear elevation as originally constructed is retained. All of the end elevations and the front elevation remain unaltered. The extension also follows the linear form of the original building and again is in line with advice we have sought on the most appropriate form for extensions to such properties. I have asked for 3 photographs to be taken, there's quite a few there I see, to be shown, which illustrate how the building is currently seen, particularly from the Cretan Road area to the south of the site. The extension proposed is to the north and is set back from the existing front elevation, being seen as subservient to the main building in location, height and massing, but with complementary design details and materials. We note that the previous Commission removed permitted development rights, but that does not preclude extensions appropriate to and complementary with the existing building. Chairman, we believe that this extension, acceptable to the local community, is just that, and we would respectfully ask that this committee follows the support of the Parish Council and agrees that it is a good example of how to extend an historic property and therefore is in line with your policies and government advice. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Members. Councillor Irving Swift, followed by Councillor Randall.
Could I bother the officer to show us on the plan, because it's quite, what is exactly the extension on the...
That's the block plan, probably better. The area to the south is the original house. And yes, the areas immediately north and to the east are the extensions.
So the very big building is the extension, it's not the whole back is the extension.
That's all the extension.
Councillor Randall.
Yeah, no, you know, often we have listed buildings come before us. Now, you know, I find this quite difficult actually, that if it was something of such interest, why it isn't a listed building. When it is a listed building, obviously they have to make sure that they adhere to everything. And when it isn't a listed building, you'd assume that it will be the same as any other house. And as it's not a listed building, and you know, and the parish council, you know, are happy with it, and they're saying that it's a good example of an extension to a historic building, I just feel as if it's not a listed building. It makes it hard to refute it.
Through you, Chairman, I don't know if you recall the training session that we did last year, conservation and listed buildings. Both former councillor Andrew Harris and Rachel did point out that actually we do have to consider heritage issues for non-designated buildings, and that is what this is the first example I've certainly seen at committee for some time. So that's, you know, we can and should consider heritage issues, even if buildings aren't listed and it's not conservation areas, which is what's been done in this case.
Okay. Councillor Frenchman.
Yes, I think one of the reasons, I mean, looking at the building, it's worthy of listing, but because the internal has been mucked about, then it isn't. That's the only reason. I'm quite conflicted with this because I can see the beauty of that building, and I do feel that, yeah, I've spoken to Mr Armstrong on the phone a couple of times about this, and it's a difficult one. Having seen these photographs, I have to say, and I'm sure you won't appreciate it, it does look overbearing and too big for the house in that position, because as you can see from the photography, it's basically an open countryside, and anything you do to it that is as big as it's in fact doubling the size of the house, it becomes very prominent indeed. And I can see the problems with it, and if it was my house, I'm sure I'd be looking to extend it. But I'm sure there are more sympathetic and perhaps smaller, more modest schemes that could be looked at that would work much better.
Thank you, Councillor Frenchman. Councillor Luke.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think it's a wonderful building, looking at the photographs. And I think it would totally destroy to put an extension on like of that size. Also, it would detract from its setting in the countryside, as has been stated in the report. And it certainly wouldn't it? Because it's a lovely position that it's in. I'd love to see it stay as it is, because I think we need to protect our heritage for future generations. And I also think the
do you want to come back in a few minutes? No, there's no problem. If you want to, I'll let next speaker and then I'll let you come back. Councillor Paul. No, it's okay, it's okay, Councillor Luke. No problem at all.
Sorry, people do get tongue-tied.
That's right. Yeah, you deal with it the right way.
I don't appreciate the laughter either.
It doesn't happen with you though, Councillor Paul, does it?
Never. I've never been guilty of being tongue-tied yet, Chairman. I don't think the photographs were very explicit. Photographs taken during the winter period, pretty hazy. It would have been nice if we could have had an aerial photo, probably confluence of Google Earth or something.
Can we do that now, Councillor?
Sorry?
I can do that now.
Yes, it's very, it's a very hazy building. Yes, you can see it.
You can hire a helicopter straight away.
Yes.
It's called Google Earth.
You don't have to, you just go on to Google Earth. The problem that I have is the building, yes, is not listed. It has a heritage link because of its name. The extension, I mean, we've got to get into the habit, or I believe it would be good if we could get into the habit of realising that buildings are living things. If you walk down any high street, you see bricked up windows from when there was a window tax, a door's been put in here, taken out there, and all the rest of it. And it's all well and good trying to preserve our heritage, but the buildings have to be lived in. Now, I looked at the plans of this, I see it in character with the existing building. It is, you know, in open countryside. Who is going to see it? But I tell you what, if anybody does see it and looks at the character of the building, they won't know which part is new and which part is old. And I would like to propose that we accept the application against Officer Advice, Chairman.
Need a reason, Councillor Paul.
I don't see it, you know, with due respect to the conservation officer, I don't think there is a harm to...
That's a reason. You can use that as a reason. Right, do you have a seconder for that? Yeah, you do indeed. Councillor Major behind you. Would you like to speak, Councillor Major?
Not particularly, no. I would just say with the support of the parish with supporting the design. I mean, it is prominent as it is now, but I'm sure it can be prominent in a positive way.
We're still Googling Earth it. Yeah, you're in the wrong village, yeah.
You're in the wrong village,
No, you're not in the wrong village.
To the north. To the north, yeah.
Yeah, north.
No, you're right. The way you point to is just left a bit, left a bit.
Up a bit, far out.
Red hot.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, so that's where it is.
That's the
So I need to go on this road and see what I can see from this road. Look at next thing.
I've lost the building.
The building's just above there, but I'm trying to...
Can you get it up now?
Here's me.
Yeah, you've got to get the man, not the man. Yeah.
No, it's okay, so what can we see?
I would suggest that as there is a difficulty in finding such a large building, then the extension is not going to make any difference whatsoever.
It's between those trees. You can see it.
Especially if you camouflage it.
No, not that
Will
way.
you
Other
or
way.
not?
Other way. I'll go down that road about.
It's right in the middle of that screen, but you can't see it.
You can see it from the bridge.
You have to cross the bridge.
John, would you like to say something while we're talking? While we're looking at pictures,
Yes,
rather.
please, Chairman. I think in considering this application, members, we have to come back to the policy context as a starting point. And the policy context under policy EN9, which I'm sure members are very familiar with, will allow conversions of buildings in the open countryside, provided they're capable of conversion without extensive extensions or alteration to their existing form. That's the starting point for members to consider. Clearly, this proposal in officers' consideration is an extensive extension. This property is an existing 4-bedroom property, and whilst the current application is not acceptable to officers, I think the applicant will have heard tonight that should a smaller application come in for something more reasonable, then members might be more persuaded. Is what I feel is coming to the top table here tonight.
Let's have the floor. Thank you. Councillor Eden for a start, followed by Councillor Barrett, and where will the Councillor Irving Swift? Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Eden.
I'd just like to say I don't have any problem at all with the first part, the bit that stands back. It's smaller than the first part and it fits in well. They've kept it so that it looks as though it could be part of that building, even though it's got a leak way at the back. The only bit of concern I do have is the big window in the other part. But then again, at the same time, I'd like to think it would be me that would be sitting in there looking out in the countryside at night. But that is the bit that I've got to think more about it before they have a vote.
Thank you, Councillor.
No problem with the middle bit.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chairman. I think some extensions are harmonious, and to continue my musical analogy, some are discordant. And I do feel, from the heritage point of view, this is one of the latter categories from my viewpoint. I think, taking up Councillor Paul's note about how many buildings have been altered, I would agree with him. This has happened. Houses and buildings do develop. That's why we've lost the good characteristics of so many of them. It makes it so important for a building like this to preserve the best we can of what there is, and to only allow something that's in scale and, as I said, harmonious.
Thank you. Irvingsworth, Councillor Irvingsworth.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think John said it all. We have a policy in open countryside, and if we go against that policy, we might open a can of worms. Thank you.
Okay. Right, we have a proposal which has been seconded that the application be approved. All those in favour, please show. 2. Right, those against? Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, it can't be. Must be 10. Right, so that proposal is lost, so we go the other way around now. We need a proposal to approve it. Councillor Irvingsworth?
To go with officer advice, to
Right.
refuse.
To refuse it, yeah. Okay, a second it, Councillor Randall. All those in agreement with that, please show. Right, those against? Yeah, okay, 8-2. Thank you. The application is refused. Right, the next application is 1042 and it's in Bowton.
Thank you, Chairman. The site relates to an existing dwelling in the confines of Bowton, which already benefits from consent for construction of extensions and a detached double garage. The current application seeks to amend the approved garage and insert an obscure glazed window on the north elevation. You see from the photographs that the application is part retrospective, as the proposed PIP has already been installed. The objections received are centred on the proposed height and design of the amended garage, and no objections have been raised with regards to the insertion of the obscure glazed window. The amended design seeks to replace the gable closest to the main dwelling with a hipped roof. Whilst except that the hipped roof garages are not common in the street scene, the proposed hip will only be visible from a single view within the street scene, and this alone officers do not consider substantive reason for refusal. Regards to impact on neighbours, officers consider the increase of 1 foot in height would not be significant, and the proposed hip introduces greater light than the previously approved gable. Consequently, recommending the application be approved, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
If I might clarify for members, because we struggled with this a little bit as a briefing. This is the roof in question. It's a foot higher than what is permitted, and what was permitted would be a straight roof, and it's been built hipped. So it's a foot taller, and it's got an angle. That's how they built it. And that's the same roof on the other end.
Councillor Franchard?
The thing is that even if we decided we didn't like it, it would go back to the council for enforcement, and I guess that enforcement would not be enforced because of the cost and the complexity for what actually does give a little more light to the neighbour than the original gable design. So I'm happy to go with officer's advice.
Thank you. First of all, do you have a seconder? Councillor Irvingsworth. Right.
Sorry, but it is a horrible design.
Yes, we disagree with the design. I mean, it was heavy heart again.
Okay. Councillor Randall.
Yes, sorry. I think from the time I got through my papers, I missed this one. And so I'm just going to ask a question. So I was saying on this one that it got planning permission for its roof to be lower than what it is. And they just go ahead. It's another one. They just go ahead and do as they want. You know, why do we get these? Why can't they do it? They submit a plan, they know the measurements, keep to the measurements, because every time that they go ahead, they do what we want, it costs us too much to enforce things. Actually, what message does that give? Actually, yeah, go ahead and put another form, because they're not going to do anything. You know, that is my concern. You know, is there no way through that development that actually we go out and measure and say, well, you know, you take that out because you're going too high, or...
Do you want to come back to it? I was thinking how I want to answer that, but
Sorry.
Councillor, I'm afraid that's the way law is.
Yeah.
It's the blunt answer. The planning law is set up in the way that Councillor Frenchman has outlined. If the planning permission were refused, it would have to be dealt with in accordance with the enforcement rules. The enforcement rules specifically say that enforcement should only take place if it is requisite to do so in effect. And that's simply it happens with a great deal of regularity. You get these retrospective applications, and the council is obliged to accept them.
And people's builders make mistakes. Sometimes they are genuine errors, and that's why it ends up a foot taller than it's supposed to be. I mean, this stuff happens.
I think they need to learn measuring at school.
Councillor.
Taking on board what everyone said, could we talk more than that? I noticed there's a sentence that says members may wish to consider acquiring the front gate of the roof to be hit, so it would match the back if the appearance of the roof design as built is found to be unacceptable, which I think most people here are saying is. So why can't we take the advice of the officers and say yes, but let's hit the front to match the back? As written by the officer.
Officer, do you want to answer that?
I think this is the application before us tonight, and this is the application we've got to consider. I hear what you say, and
I'm only quoting what the officer's written.
Yes, to hit the front would be preferable, however that's not the application for consideration.
It would be completely modification of that as well, wouldn't it? It would be major modification.
It's more than the enforcement.
Running application is cheaper than what it would cost to fix it.
Yeah, we're seeking to regularise, which is always the precursor where you can to enforcement consideration.
Right, we've got a proposal to approve the application which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
Chairman, can I just ask, do we not have any problem about the obscure glazed windows? No, okay with them, are we?
They are obscure.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm asking, just like
Okay, put your hands up again if you support the approval of that application, please. Thank you. Right, those against?
8 4.
That's it, 8 and 4 out of 12. Okay, that concludes the planning meeting, and there's a rough idea I lost out by judging the time as 9:30. But so did Chum as well.